What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex. I'm once again joined by Tyler, and we are back for another video in our Avengers Endgame community series where we're going to be doing a video every single day talking about Avengers Endgame. We've already had a couple videos go up, and we want to talk in this video. We want to kind of poke at this movie just a little bit. We want to talk about the things that didn't make sense in Avengers Endgame. Now, yes, it was a masterpiece. I think it was one of the best films I had ever seen. Obviously, the biggest moments of this film can't really be replicated, in my personal opinion, but the movie was not a perfect film. There are some plot holes, especially towards the ending, the very, very end. A lot of things fall apart. This is obviously a big spoiler warning. We're going to be talking about the ending of this film, talking about what didn't exactly make sense. So if you guys haven't seen it or you don't want to hear about spoilers, turn away now. But Tyler, you and me had texted back and forth, and again, the film, they try their best, and with time travel, something the way, especially how this movie does it, I'm sure you'll talk about a little bit, the way the time travel works in this movie, you have to explain it. It has to be done right, or it becomes very, very confusing. I think, too, especially if you're like a child, if you're a young kid, I don't really think it's going to make sense no matter what. But they did a pretty good job explaining it and following their own rules. But even with that, we still obviously believe that they made a couple mistakes. So do you want to talk about what exactly didn't work out with the whole, what, and just in general with the movie, but also with time travel?
The biggest thing, really, everything was solid. And I love the movie. The whole movie was fantastic. It really, like Alex said, it's really just the ending where the stuff kind of goes, in a way, wrong. They kind of go against their own established rules of time travel, which are explained slightly by Bruce, but because it's like a Bruce hulky voice, he's sort of hard to understand at times. And I like the scene where it's Bruce and Ancient One, because she explains that if you take something, so like if you took the Infinity Stone and it's no longer in that past timeline, that then creates a new timeline. So then he explained, well, then what we'll do, anything that we take, we're going to bring it right back, as if it never left. That way it doesn't create a new timeline. Well, that did happen. That actually didn't happen. And we know it didn't happen because Loki ends up with the Space Stone instead of going back to Asgard as a prisoner with Thor. So therefore there's already a new timeline, but that was part of the movie. That's not a mistake. Here's the mistake, though. And there's a lot of things that I'm about to say that once you hear them, you're like, yeah, god dang it, I wish I didn't hear that. So if you want to enjoy the movie and not think about all these kind of issues, this probably isn't the video for you. You should probably look away or turn it off right now. But, so the biggest thing is Cap goes to returns all of the stones back to where they came from, by himself. The problem is that, as these are all stones right now, we all know that they aren't just stones. In fact, the only one that's really just a stone is the Time Stone. The Cosmic Cube, or the Tesseract, that's the Space Stone, but that was that cube. So how does Cap turn it back into the cube if the cube's already broke? You kind of can't. The Mind Stone was in Loki's staff, in his scepter. How does he put that back into that little like gem-type part of the staff? He wouldn't be able to. The Power Stone, that was in Guardians of the Galaxy, that scene, how does he put that back in the casing? And not only the casing, but how does he put his hand through the thing that burned Nebula's metal hand? How does he do that? How does he this is the biggest one, how does he turn the Reality Stone back into the Aether and put it back in Jane? Does he have to hold her down and put it back in? How does that work? How does he do all of that? That's kind of strange to me. How does he even get to Asgard? Does he know where it is? That wasn't a mission of his, so I'm not quite sure how he knows that, how he knows where the Power Stone's supposed to go, how to get to Vormir. He doesn't leave with a ship. So, not that we saw, he didn't leave with a ship. In fact, we know he didn't because Guardians of the Galaxy, they're in that ship that was used to go to, Vormir. So I have no idea how he is able to bring all these stones back. So that confuses me. The next thing is, how do you even return the Soul Stone? Can you? Because it's not going to bring somebody back because it's already created. It's a soul for a soul. You can't take the death back. So how do you return the Soul Stone? Can you even return the Soul Stone? I kind of wish we would have saw Cap's interaction with Red Skull. Like, what would he be like? Oh wow, you're kind of alive, or like, what's the deal here? This is where you ended up, I guess. Like, do they have a conversation? It's just interesting. I feel like they kind of just glazed past that. When Cap goes back in the 70s to be with Peggy, we already know from Winter Soldier, the movie Captain America Winter Soldier, that Peggy ends up getting married to somebody else that was saved by Steve Rogers, and they end up having 2 children. Now, Cap always says we don't exchange lives. But the interesting thing is that apparently he's okay with exchanging lives, because by going back to 1970 and getting married to Peggy, that means that she doesn't ever marry that one other man and never has those kids, so those kids are now erased from existence. So he apparently does exchange lives. It's kind of a selfish thing for him to do. And then, so this is more kind of, I guess, hypothetical, I assume, only because he's an older man in the year 2024. So follow along with this. I honestly think it makes sense. I think I'm right about this stuff. So because he goes back to 1970 and he kind of retires, he's not Captain America, he still knows everything that's going to happen. So that means that Cap's okay with letting Hydra take over S.H.I.E.L.D. He doesn't warn anybody about that because that interferes with time, even though he already erased 2 kids. So I don't understand that. Cap's okay with Howard Stark and his wife to be killed by Bucky. He's okay with Bucky never being saved because, again, remember what breaks Bucky out of it when he says Bucky or Buck, and all of a sudden Bucky's like, oh my God, what's going on? so Cap is never there to get him out of that. So he's fine with Bucky. Literally, he knows he's alive. He's just under mind control by some like Hydra people, and he's an assassin, and that's totally fine. He's just going to do that, and he'll never be saved. Cap knows that New York's going to get blown up. People are going to die in the alien invasion in 2012. He's fine with it. He knows that half the population is going to get killed in 2018 by Thanos. He doesn't do anything to stop it. And it's just strange because, again, he's in 2024. We see him. He gives Sam, Falcon, his shield, and he's like, basically, you're the new Captain America now. So that means that Captain America lived through all of these events. He knows Ultron's going to happen. He knows Sokovia, all that's going to happen. He knows all those people are going to die. Everything allows it to happen. It just, when you think of it like this, it's not what Captain America would do. He would never do any of these. He's not somebody who could just sit by and be like, you know what, everything will work out. Because then when you really think about it, even if he said, like, you know what, I know the Avengers, they're going to come together, it's just going to be without me. They're going to come together and they'll be able to do it. But when we look at what happened in Infinity War and Endgame, if he didn't show up to save Wanda and Vision, they both would have been killed, 100%. And if he wasn't in Endgame to kind of like keep everybody together a little bit and do the plan and kind of pursue the time travel and all that stuff, that wouldn't have happened. They would have had a very hard time getting all the stones in the past because he knew where that base was in the 70s. He was able to get the Pym particles. Tony Stark never would have been able to get both things on his own. He had a hard enough time getting just the cube. So, like, there's all these problems, but then the biggest one, in my opinion, is he would know, like, oh yeah, that's right. Remember when Thanos got Thor's axe and almost killed Thor with his own axe, and then I got the hammer and saved Thor? If I'm not there, that means Thor dies. So there's all these kind of like Cap beats the crap out of Thanos. He's able to hold him off. If all that stuff didn't happen, and I know I'm missing parts where Cap's like super integral, but if he wasn't there, nothing would have went the same. And and then here's the best part too. Because it's 2024 where Endgame, the final fight, takes place, that means that he could have then showed up and been like, yeah, you know, I'm Steve Rogers, I used to be Captain America, you don't know me, but I'm going to go on the trip to Vormir with you. And I'm going to go, and I'm going to be the one who dies to get the Soul Stone to save Natasha. So why wouldn't he do that? because he knows it's going to happen. So it's just all these things. And then again, you could say, well, maybe none of it happens. Well, if none of it happens, then how is he in 2024 as an old man? And it's not a new timeline, because if it's a new timeline, he wouldn't be able to be sitting on that bench in our 2024. And if you look on his hand, he didn't have the time bracelet on. So he was there. He knew when to show up. He knew the date and time and all that stuff to show up. So he experienced all of these things, and he was fine with letting it all happen. And it would technically be a new timeline. That's what drives me kind of crazy, because Captain America would never do that kind of stuff. And in my opinion, why wouldn't he go back in time and show back up, maybe bring an extra bracelet secretly, show back up with Peggy, and live with her the rest of his life in 2024? Why couldn't he do that? If Gamora and Thanos, or mainly Gamora because she's still alive, if she's able to come from 2014, come into 2024 and still exist, he can take Peggy from 1970 and bring her to 2024 and live with her. That doesn't really break any problems. So it's just all of that stuff is like, man, that doesn't really make much sense. How did he make the stones back to their other form? How did he get to these places? And why is he okay with letting all these other things happen and just like being, it'll work out? That's not the Cap that we saw. Cap doesn't exchange lives, but now he does. It's just, so that's the kind of stuff that bothered me at the end. And again, everything was solid the whole movie. And it was just this part for that nice happy ending, which I love so much. I love that he got that last dance, all of that stuff. I loved how they did that. They ended his character perfectly. Unless you think of the details, and then it's like, yeah, it's good if you don't think about it. But if you think about it, then it doesn't make as much sense. And unfortunately, I have like a kind of busy mind. I'm kind of analytical, so my mind catches that kind of stuff. I don't know. It's kind of weird. And then I guess my other one kind of question is, can't Doctor Strange, maybe I'm wrong on this one, but can't Doctor Strange use the Time Stone on Steve Rogers and make him young again? Just like he changed the apple from being completely eaten to being a whole apple again? Can't he change Steve? I assume he'd be able to. So really, that's all the problems. And if you kind of think about it, the fact that, now yes, I just gave a long list of issues, but it's only because of the last 2 minutes. And if you think about it, it's 2 minutes out of 3 hours and like 2 minutes. So honestly, to be a solid film with, nothing is popping out in my brain. So for that to happen, they did a really good job. And I understand they did it just to get that ending for Cap. So I'm going to let it slide. I like the ending. It's fine with me. But, that's always going to kind of bother me a little bit in the back of my mind. But again, it was solid all the way through until just the very end.
So guys, let us know in the comments below, what did you think about the film? Did everything make sense to you? Could you answer any of Tyler's questions? Is there anything that he missed? Is there anything that didn't make sense in Avengers Endgame that you want to talk about? Leave it in the comments below. We can have a nice conversation about it. Make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel, Podcast Now. Hit the bell icon so you guys know when these videos go up. And again, we're doing a video of Avengers Endgame talking about the movie once this movie has actually come out, which obviously it has, but also talking about the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And we're doing that every single day. So if you guys have missed any of our videos, please go back and check those out, and you can look for a new one every single day. So we thank you so much for watching, and we will see you on the next video.